Alright, today so I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm at the alligator chain of lakes. I'm actually on the most northern lake, which is I think Lake Center. And I was going to go fish Trout Lake today, but I got to the ramp and just no place to park. Tons of people out doing recreational boating. So I wanted this channel to be a little bit educational in terms of fishing Central Florida and places you can go, things you can kind of do. And what I want to do today is show you how I kind of figure out, where the fish are in these lakes, if these lakes are worth it or not, how to fish certain lakes. So sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. I've been here once before, but I wasn't fishing very smart. I was fishing topwater, I was fishing white flukes, I was fishing a different lake on the chain, and I had one or two follows and a couple little strikes, but nothing landed. So today I'm going to do what I should have done that day, and I'm going to fish smart. So the first thing is, whenever you do something where you find a place that you want to fish, like on Google or whatever, I immediately check out the shoreline. Is there bank access, number one? If there's not bank access, what is the shoreline? Is it mostly reeds? Is it mostly lily pads? Is it tree lines? That kind of thing. Two, what I do then is, check weather, make sure the weather's going to be okay. Today's going to be breezy, I think about 8-mile-an-hour winds, but I'm back in a little pocket inside of Lake Center. The next thing I'm going to do is, once I get there, is I'm going to check the water quality. But before I get there, I'm also going to read up on the lake, see if I can find any reviews of the lake, people, fishing it, anything like that. And if I can, I want to talk to people about the lake. So I've talked to locals. Fish jumped right there. I've talked to locals about this lake, and one guy said he's never really caught any big fish out of here. Alligator and bricklake are probably the best out of the chain, but he's come here and caught plenty of fish in numbers before. Now, he recommended a few spots. One was this little back area, and another I'm going to go check out after this. So I'm going to check those out. Now, once I get to the lake, the next thing I do is I take a look at the water quality. Now, this is tannic stained water, and if you want to see what I'm talking about, I'm going to dip my paddle here into the water, and you can see it's got that nasty red tint to it. So these lakes are heavily tannic stained, so the acidity in this lake is a little bit higher than normal lakes. So what this tells me, even West Lake Toho and parts of Shingle Creek, which are heavily stained, there's other places in there where it's crystal clear. This is pretty bad. So I'm going to put on dark colored baits that have a little bit of blue in them. I'm going to be fishing 3 different types of baits today. I'm going to use the Midnight Special as just a bait to cover water and see if I can find fish off of isolated areas, off cover. Because of the high acidity in this lake, there's no grass growing out in the middle. So there's no hydrilla beds. There's none of that stuff that we would normally find. The other thing I'm going to be fishing is that black and blue worm. I'm going to use that to kind of bounce it off the bottom around areas, kind of punch in through some of the pads and things. And I'm going to fish a electric blue Senko just as a locator bait, because even if I get hit by like crappie or even bluegill or stuff like that, that tells me there's at least fish in the area and there's possibly some bass. So that's how I start out. Let's see if this works. Now, I could totally get skunked today. I have no idea. I don't want to get skunked. Today's been already kind of rough, but let's give it a shot and see what happens. I see some fish surfacing. It doesn't mean they're bass, but let's give it a shot. I also forgot to mention that I have my overly American Old Navy shirt on, my American Eagle shorts, which are very comfortable, and then my Jägermeister hat, which my wife hates. But it keeps the sun and the sweat off my eyes, so I'm gonna wear it. Weather for today it's warm. It's up in the 80s. I'm probably gonna start sweating at some point. We do have a little bit of a breeze. The water feels a little bit warm. I'm not going to stay too long in this pocket. One thing I don't want to do is spend too much time today in just one place fishing it and being unsuccessful. I want to get out. I want to try to locate fish. They say about 90% of the fish live in about 20% of the lake. And if that's true, I want to find that 20%. I just stopped right here. The reason why is as I was coming up here and looking at this, fish busted back in there. That fish is really far back in. That doesn't mean they aren't around here on the edges either. All Alright, so nothing off those reeds. We're going to try these reeds down here real quick. And I changed off my spinnerbait because I think it's almost a little too dark for this coloring. I think the worms should be fine. The Senko's pretty light. The other worm, I don't know if I need to change color on that or change a different bait. And I put on a ridiculously colored crankbait on this one, just to see if you try to figure out what color is going to work. Natural, crazy, dark. Try this reed set down here with these lily pads, and then we're going to head down into Coon Lake and go to the second place that was recommended to me. Alright, so nothing off of these. I want to go behind, throw a couple casts, and then I'm going to head down to the second spot. It's going to take me about 15 minutes to get there. Okay, first fish of the day. Really tiny bass, but hey, oh, he's off. Calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down, come on, come on, come on, come on. Get you back in there. Really tiny dude. On the Senko, he nailed it too. This is the other spot that I was told to be productive, which is off this little outcropping from the canal from here to, I think it's Lake Lizzie. I was told back in here it would also be productive, but it seems a lot more grown up than what it's being described to, but it's decent. It's an okay fish. So there's the first fish, so that's a good sign, so he wasn't lying about that. Where's he at? Come on. It's not a monster, but that is a bass. Ouch. Whew. His gripper teeth are really sharp. He has been caught before. There's a wound right there. Not very thick. So hopefully they are here and we can make this fishing trip into something rather than just having those two little fish. I know this lake here is probably not or the upper part of the alligator chain is probably not it's probably not the world's greatest bass fishery because of how acidic the water is. Alligator Lake seems to do a lot better, but there's a lot more inflow coming from other places. So maybe they are piled up back in here. If that's the case, let's see if we can find them. I'll have to make this a little bit more weedless when we have to go with the zoom worm. But I'll take any fish on any day. I'd rather catch a million dinks than catch nothing. Although preferably I'd like to catch one just massive fish. There's another one. About the same size, I think. Maybe a little bit better. Get away from the anchor rope. Just about the same size. Here. Getting really sharp gripper teeth. Decent sized head, not a big body. Kind of tells you what kind of fishery this is. Alright, so a boat just went up through the canal, so I'm going to give this a couple seconds to calm down. But as I was coming back into this section, 2 or 3 fish jumped right here. Well, as good as this looked, and a few fish that I saw move over here, which doesn't mean that they're bass, I just saw them move. No bites. So here's what I normally do after I decide that I'm about done. Battery's probably going to die in the GoPro in a little bit. And, you know, I fished the two spots that I wanted to fish, and I fished them, you know, fairly thoroughly. A lot of casts I made that weren't on camera, and I caught 3 fish. Well, 2 where I expected. 1 just kind of out there, and sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days. Now, coming here, I knew this is probably not the greatest fishery, but I'm willing to give everything a chance. There are other lakes, like Lake Davenport, or Old Lake Davenport, is really not that great of a bass lake. I've caught a few little ones there. And that's even, you know, I think it's on I think it's Bass Lake Community there. It's on their website. It says, like, you know, Old Lake Davenport has a bunch of trash fish, but not really good bass fishery because of the quality of the water. Same thing on these. The exception of like Alligator Lake and I think this Southern 3, Alligator Lake, Gentry isn't that great either, but there are spots. And then Brick Lake are probably the best 3 out of the lakes here. And these lakes are going to get a lot of recreational vehicles on them and whatnot, but you never know till you try. And every now and then you might hook into that one monster that happens to live out there. There are other places that I wanted to take a look at today, but morning kind of got bunked up a little bit. So I'm going to work my way back. Got some bait fish kind of scattering over here. It's a good sign. I'm gonna kind of work my way back to the dock, and we'll go from there and see if we find anything. So I'm back up towards the boat ramp. I'll fish a little bit here, and then I think I'll head home. I talked to 2 guys who had been out fishing, and they didn't catch anything. So that makes me feel better about, you know, at least catching 3, even if they were just small ones. I mean, there's plenty of lake to explore. It's just, you know, fishing these lakes that are like this heavy tannic stain with no foliage in the middle, no grass or anything. It makes it kind of tough. And, you know, I'm sure there are fish in here, and this is kind of an overlooked chain, but I don't think it's, when you've got, you know, the Kissimmee chain of lakes and Lake Toho East and West, and Fish Lake, and all that close by, that kind of diminishes this stuff here. So the idea was I wanted to show you what I do when I go to new places, and this isn't exactly new. I've been here once, like I said, but I came here with a game plan. I usually go there with a game plan. I try to figure out what the fish are on, and the electric blue Senko seemed to be it, and they hit it really aggressively. This was not like I'm going to casually pick it up and swim with it. They hit it pretty hard, so they wanted it. Nothing on the spinnerbait, nothing on the crankbait, no hits on the zoom worm, which I have a weight on that, and I was kind of bouncing on the bottom. They wanted the Senko though. So you see my car. I'm going to fish these edges the rest of the way out. Maybe I'll catch something, maybe not. But either way, today was not a horrible day. Compared to other fishermen, I could have caught nothing. So that's what I typically do when I come out to new places. I want to get out and take a look at some of the places people have been mentioning. I've got a couple of parks in mind too. I just got to get the time to go there, and we'll see if I can wrangle up some time to do it. Other than that, I think that's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Enjoy your week. Tight lines.